Hello, my name's Zach Gibbs, and I'm a content developer within education services inside Juniper Networks. And today we will be going through the using screens with Security Director Learning Byte. All right, here is our example, and the first thing I want to point out in the example is that SRX1 in the middle is connected to the internet through the GIGI 000 interface in the internet zone. And then we have SRX1 connecting to the web server on GIGI 001 in the servers zone. And then next you'll see the attacker device. Now that device is connected to the internet, so it's coming in on an unknown public network, which is the internet, and we're going to be using that to attack the web server. Now the one thing I do want to point out here is that SRX1 is doing destination NAT on an IP address and translating that traffic to the web server. Now notice how the web server has an IP address of 10.10.10.100. Well, the actual IP address the attacker will be attacking is the public IP address of 10.100.100.100. So keep that in mind. You'll see that as we use the attacker device, we'll be using it towards the 10.100.100.100 address, which SRX1 is translating to the web server address of 10.10.10.100. Okay, with that being said, let's talk about their criteria for the example. We want to protect the web server from ICMP fragments, ping of death attack, land attack, bad IP options, source route, and TCP port scans. Now with TCP port scans, we have to specify an additional parameters to get it to work. In this example, we want to enable TCP port scan protection if 10 attack packets are detected within 0.01 seconds or 10,000 microseconds. When we configure the threshold, it's configured in microseconds, so keep that in mind. So basically how this works is if we have the attacker on the internet, which is attacking our web server, and this single host scans 10 or more ports within 10,000 microseconds, then it's going to enable the TCP port scan protection. So with that, let's go ahead and jump to Security Director and get this going. All right, so here is Security Director, and we are currently in the configure section of Security Director. And if you thought that you would configure screens in this section of Security Director, I wouldn't fault you for that. Although you don't do that here. We actually need to go to the individual device configuration to configure screens. So to do that, we need to go to Devices, and then here is the SRX1 device. Right-click that and go to Configuration, Modify Configuration. And here in the Modify Configuration window, you'll see a bunch of sections on the left. And we can go to the Screens section on the left, select that, and here is where we can configure screens. And so let's go ahead and click the Create button to start creating a new screen. Let's go ahead and name this. We'll call this Web Server Protection. And we could give a description if we wanted to. That's optional. So the first option we see is generate alarms without drops. Kind of truncated there because it's kind of long, but you can hover over it. So we're not going to drop packets if we select this option. Now this is a great option if you are deploying screens in a production network and you're not quite sure if you're setting the parameters correctly. You're not quite sure what an option really does. So with that, let's go ahead and configure the screen options we need for our example. So we want to select the land attack protection in the denial service section, and then ICMP fragment, and then that's all we need for denial service section. And then under anomalies, we want to select the bad option and security. Oh, and I did forget the ping of death. We want to select that. All right, so let's scroll down. All we need to configure now is our TCP port scan. And if we go down to the bottom, we can see under the reconnaissance section, we have a port scan option. So let's select that, and we're given a field, and this is where we need to enter our threshold in microseconds. So it's 10,000, and let's click OK. And now we need to apply that screen to a zone. So click the zones section, and we have two zones. We have internet and web server. So you might be wondering, which zone do I apply this to? Well, you always want to apply screens on the zone that the traffic will be coming into. And in our case, that traffic is coming into, from the attacker that is, so it's coming into the internet zone. So select that. Click the Edit button, and if we scroll down, we'll see a screen option under Traffic Control Options. Select that drop down and select our screen that we just configured. Click OK, and let's click Save and Deploy. Push this out to SRX1. And great, we can see that that configuration was pushed out to SRX1 successfully. So let's go ahead and jump to the attacker device and run some attacks. Here is the attacker device, and first let's attempt to ping the web server using small ICMP packets. And that goes through just fine. And remember, we are pinging the supposed public IP address. I know that's not a public IP in real life, because I don't want to use public IPs in a lab situation, but that is the public IP address we're using, and VSRX1 is translating that to the web server address with destination net. So great, that works fine. Let's do a really large packet, ICMP packet that is. And it doesn't go through. That's perfect. And the reason behind that is the MTU for the path is 1500 bytes. And so this is obviously over 1500 bytes, which means the ICMP packet is being fragmented. Okay, so let's run a TCP port scan using the Nmap utility. And what we're doing here is we're running the Nmap utility to scan TCP ports 1 through 60,000 for that web server. Let's go ahead and run that. And normally this would take about 5-6 seconds to complete. And this is going to take a lot longer to complete right now because we have TCP port scanning protection enabled. And I've done this outside this Learning Byte, and it takes about 5-6 minutes to complete. So I don't want to let this run to completion. We don't need to do that. So let's go ahead and cancel that. And let's go ahead and look at the screen statistics. And unfortunately, Security Director doesn't have any way to look at the screen statistics. So what we'll do is we'll jump to the CLI of VSRX1 to look at those statistics. So here is the CLI of VSRX1. And to look at the screen statistics, we need to do the show security screen statistics zone. We need to specify the zone or the interface. In this case, we're just going to specify the zone that it's coming in on. That's internet. And we can look at the individual statistics. And here we can see that TCP port scan, we have some values for that. We have 59 port scan attempts that happened. And then under the ICMP fragment, we can see we have 36 fragmented packets that were blocked with the screen. So you can see here that the web server is now protected against the type of attacks we set in the screen. And we were able to verify that we're able to block TCP port scans as well as fragmented ICMP packets. So that brings us to the end of this Learning Byte. In this Learning Byte, we demonstrated how to configure screens using Security Director. So as always, thanks for watching.
Visit the Juniper Education Services website to learn more about courses. View our full range of classroom, online, and e-learning courses. Learning paths, industry segment and technology-specific training paths. Juniper Network's certification program, the ultimate demonstration of your competence. And the training community, from forums to social media. Join the discussion.